Previously on Chaos Head Noah.
セナ、父さんはすごい発見をしたぞ。これはノーベル賞どころの騒ぎじゃない。
何がそんなにすごいの？
この公式はこれまでの世界の仕組みをも変えるだろう。それほどの大発見なんだ。
As he spoke, he held out a memo pad before Sena's eyes. Written on it was the IR2 equation.
ずっと探していたんだよ。父さんではどうしても思いつけなかった。プロジェクトノアは停滞していた。手詰まりだった。だがこの公式があれば計画は次の段階に進めるんだ。まさかあんなところで見つけるなんて思いもしなかったよ。これはまさに信仰の救いだね。
Please, just let me go. What had I done to deserve this? Exist? I couldn't take it anymore. Someone save me. Please. Rimi, where did you go? Weren't you supposed to protect me? No. I couldn't rely on Rimi anymore. I had even gone to school today just to see her, but she hadn't been there. Almost like she was never there to begin with. So I had to find someone else. Someone else who I could rely on to protect me. And the first person that came to mind was...
お前が望むと望まないとに関わらず、もしこれ以上踏み込んでくるような負を正にするぐらいの強い意識を持つんだな。中途半端な気持ちじゃ妄想に食われるだけだぞ。
Aoi Sena. Yesterday, when the two of us had gone our separate ways, she'd given me that piece of advice. She definitely knew something. She also has a D-sword. She seems strong, too. Would she be my savior? If not, I was doomed. As payment for her services, I would give her 3 crunchy coons a day. What a paycheck! You fucking cheapskate. It was an offer even Sena couldn't refuse. Proceeds to refuse.
くれるのか？ありがとう。
She accepted it with surprisingly little resistance. Everything was going according to plan.
西条は何味が好きだ？私は断然ソーダ味だな。
I bet nothing tastes like nothing. Sena excitedly tore open the wrapping and took out the popsicle. It might have just been my imagination, but it almost looked like her mouth had curved into a slight smile. Man, just how obsessed with those things are you? You're practically asking for a stomach ache. Hey, maybe she's got a stronger stomach than you do.
僕はコーラ味。
なんだと？コーラ味なんて邪道だ。ふざけるな。
すいません。
I'd made her mad. I thought about telling her off for getting upset over something so trivial, but I figured I'd better keep my mouth shut.
僕を助けてほしい。
どういう意味だ？
僕はニュージェネの真犯人に、狙われてる。この前話したでしょ。将軍っていうやつなんだ。僕はきっとそいつに思考盗撮されてる。
思考盗撮か。そいつ何者だ？
知るもんか。僕が聞きたいぐらいだ。
この渋谷で思考盗撮できる連中なんて限られてる。ギガロマニアックスか、あるいはノゾミの連中か。
ノゾミ？
ノゾミテクノロジー、プロジェクトノアによって 世界を手に入れようとしてる。
NOZOMI.
ナナミがこのビルのどこかに。
She had been kidnapped by Shogun. Her wrist. That wasn't a delusion. It was real. I had to find her. I wasn't able to save her before, and now Sena was suffering too. So I had to find her. This time for sure, I had to do something.
落ち着け西条。これは罠の可能性が。
さっき君だって将軍の言葉を信じたじゃないか。
I violently shook Sena's hands off of me. The presidential office was on the 31st floor.
違う、音を聞け。将軍の干渉とは別の妄想だ。
I ignored her and sprinted up the stairs.
それにしてもノロセが言っていた通りだったね。まさかここまで馬鹿正直に網にかかる者がいたと。
1週間も放置しておけば衰弱してろくに抵抗もできなくなろう。それから拷問しようとしゃれ込もうではないか。
畑野瀬名はすでにコードサンプル取得済みと資料にはある。
Hatano. Sena. Who was that?
洗脳を施した方が良さそうだ。我らの兵士としよう。
兵士兼慰み者だな。ギガロマニアックスの少女を奴隷とするなど実に気分が良さそうではないか。
井ノ原先生もお好きだね。
ではギガロマニアックスの諸君、監禁生活をせいぜい楽しみたまえ。
1週間が経つ頃にはプロジェクトノアにより世界は大きく変わっていることだろう。その変革の瞬間を見ることができない君たちに同情するよ。
のぞみテクノロジーが進めている沈黙の兵器開発計画だ。
沈黙の兵器。
一言で言うなら広範囲に作用するマインドコントロール装置だな。思考盗撮、視覚投影、五感制御。肉体的には損傷を与えることはない。音もないし色もないし匂いもしない。目にも見えない。だが確実に多くの人の精神をゆっくりと静かに汚染していく。誰にも気づかれないまま攻撃は完了しているんだ。
まるでギガロマニアックスの力みたいじゃないか。
当然だ。沈黙の兵器はギガロマニアックスを人工的に生み出そうという考えから始まったんだからな。
It was all so insane that it didn't even feel real. But in the end, that was just the way things were. I was no hero. Even if I was told that an insane conspiracy such as that was true, and it currently was unfolding in Shibuya, I wouldn't feel the slightest urge to stand against it. Her eyes were closed, but her eyelashes were quivering. She must have only lost consciousness. We were really, really close. If I wanted to, I could have easily moved in and kissed her. I frantically tried to skirt away, but my body wouldn't move. That was when I finally realized what exactly had happened. Keeping my head completely still, I tried to survey my surroundings. But it was pitch black. I couldn't make out anything. It felt like a thin film had been draped over my field of vision. But there was no film. It was just a cloud of dust. We had been buried in rumble. You know what?
今すぐ妄想を封印しろ西条。お前のその股間 股間のあれが硬くなって私の太ももに当たってるんだバカが。
Well, I guess it's certainly one way to achieve mutual recognition in this situation, huh? What? Yeah, I did feel something there. Sena's soft, pillowy thighs.
妄想するなと言ってるだろ。
Suddenly, I found my face on the receiving end of a brutal headbutt. And since it was a surprise attack, and my strong one at that, the single strike knocked me out with like a light. And so it continues. Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Chaos Head Noah. So, the third melt has occurred, and now we are, well, we're not free, we're trapped underneath some rubble. But we're at least arguably in a position to where we can actually free ourselves from NOZOMI HQ, and, well, I guess we'll just figure out what to do from there once we get out. But Sena's a smart cookie. I'm sure she can come up with a solid plan. After all, the plan she came up with in the last episode had been nothing but a roaring success.
実に不思議ね。君の才能を私は買っていた。
利用していたの間違いない。私はもうあなたの言葉を信じない。教祖としての倉持雄大の虚像でしかないと分かった。
信仰の救いを君も欲していただろう。
かつての私は欲していた。だが今は違う。
では何を欲しているのかね。
償いのための死だ。
一度信仰に触れた者は離れることなどできない。君は離れたつもりでも信仰はいかなるものをも見捨てない。
神に頼るのはもう神に匹敵するものを作ってしまった私には神にすがることは許されない。
日常起きろ日常。
I could hear an extremely pompous conversation between two unfamiliar men. Sena's hushed shouts jutted in between the two voices, causing me to open my eyes. Unsurprisingly, we were still squished together, enclosed in rubble with no way to escape.
君は君自身の意志でこの未来を選ぶこと。全ては君の責任。だが一人で背負うのが重すぎるだろう。信仰の救いがもたらされれば、その重み多少は減る。
Is this being played on a loudspeaker somewhere?
私が信仰の道にいやあなたの言葉に従った結果と。
誰かいる。話し声が聞こえるだろ。
I nodded in response. I could hear the voices of two men. It seemed like some cosmic church of the divine light randos. At the very least, it definitely wasn't a rescue party.
あいつだ。あいつが近くにいる。
I seriously doubt that. I could vividly hear the sound of Sena gritting her teeth.
言葉を飾るためるんだ倉持。あなたのビリーは
Could you please shut off the rumbling? I can barely hear myself think, let alone hear what they're saying.
残念だ。もっとも君がいなくても、すでにノア2は完成している。あとは世界に向けて我らの意志を発信するのみだ。
我らの手は
A third man joined the conversation. What the hell were they talking about? And where was it coming from? The fact that we could hear their voices meant they had to be at least somewhat close to us. Maybe there wasn't as much rubble on top of us as we might have thought. Sena shifted slightly. Her hand gripped my uniform tightly. So tightly, it was like she was enduring an intense pain. Her gaze pointed downward, but she didn't make eye contact with me. Well, I find it funny that with this, we are basically being given an indirect admission that they were planning on betraying Norose from the start. These two fuckwits. And yet, in the main story proper, Norose ends up turning the tables on them instead. The irony, it's delicious. My field of vision was suddenly overwhelmed with light. The small pieces of rubble surrounding us began to crumble. Ah, sweet silence. Sena raised her head in shock. A hand reached toward us from above, peeking through a gap in the rubble.
無事か, Sena.
Well, holy shit, he actually is close by. I was totally wrong. That hand began to pull Sena up through the debris. As it did, the crevice beneath the rubble widened, and once her weight was lifted off of me, I could finally move again. I crawled out of the gap that had been made by Sena's body. It was the room in the NOZOMI building, the very same room we had been trapped in.
君もノロセ同様に我らが使ってやろうと言っているのにそれを拒否するとは統治側ではなく家畜として生きるのが望みかね
Seeing as how you just admitted that you intended to basically enslave the rest of humanity and be a dictatorship of two, I mean, the only ruling side here is just you and what's his name. What ruling side could he really join here? If you two are going to be the only ones that'll actually end up calling the shots at the end of the day. Almost all the monitors that had been hanging from the ceiling had crashed to the floor, leaving all their screens broken. Naturally, nothing was displayed on them anymore. Even the walls and various other chunks of the room were beginning to collapse. But all in all, the room wasn't anywhere near as bad as I expected it to be. Yeah, same. I assumed we'd been buried alive, but there wasn't even that much rubble. In hindsight, I probably could have escaped if I had tried to. I felt like such an idiot for being too scared to move. Well, I mean, hey, you had no way of knowing for sure until, you know, you got out. You weren't wrong to be cautious, at least. Okay, so I got a question. How did you know where to find us? Let alone when, for that matter.
Sena.
Sena was facing a man I had never seen before. He was wearing a ragged coat that complemented his clouded eyes. Overall, he looked like your typical homeless man. I had a feeling I'd met him somewhere before, but I couldn't remember where. Maybe we had passed each other in Shibuya at some point. Aside from the two of them, there was no one else there. The voices of the people who had trapped us, the member of the House of Representatives and the Cosmic Church's founder, must have come from a speaker somewhere in the room.
おや、畑野や。どうやら親子で感動の対面を果たしたようだね。
Daughter? That man was Sena's father? I definitely heard Sena say the name Hatano before.
せいぜい再会の喜びでも語っているがいい。そしてそこから眺めているのだな。世界が変革していく様を。
ノア2をフル稼働させれば、渋谷だけでなく世界中のすべての人間に作用を及ぼすことが可能だ。そのネットワークはすでに構築され。
Suddenly, the voice from the speaker was cut short. And then, a series of strange sounds came through them. Let me guess. Has Norose sent some goons your way to say, nope, and cut your heads off? Is Norose currently backstabbing you as we speak? Which meant their power hadn't been cut off. Something was wrong.
今のって
I hear gunshots. After the gunshots came the raspy sounds of a man breathing raggedly.
バカな、こんなはずでは。私はこれから統治者に。
A final, deathly scream. Then, with a dull click, the audio was cut short once more, and the speaker fell silent. An oppressive silence covered the room. What had just happened?
殺されたんじゃ。
殺された？誰に？
知らないよ。
Yeah, again, I think I have a pretty good idea about who did it. The two voices were being broadcast from somewhere else, and the audio was coming out of the speakers. So how close were they to the room we were in? At the very least, they had to be somewhere in the building. Taking that into consideration, the culprit who killed those two had to be close by.
逃げようよ。殺人鬼がここに来るかも。
だから殺人鬼って誰だ？なんであの二人は殺された？いや、殺されたと判断した根拠は？
落ち着け、セナ。
お前には聞いてない。
悲鳴聞いたでしょ。殺されたとしか思えないよ。
Who killed them? Shogun? But wait, wasn't Shogun supposed to be a member of NOZOMI? No. That was just an assumption on my part. There was no evidence proving he had anything to do with them.
逃げるのは少し面倒だ。このビルは崩れかかっている。あちこちに歪みが生じている。私がこの部屋に入ってきた直後に入り口が瓦礫で塞がれてしまった。
It was just as Hatano said. But I had this nagging feeling, one that told me that, considering the way the walls and everything around us had collapsed, there was way more debris than there should have been. I had a bad feeling about this. Well, it wasn't like I'd ever been into an abandoned building before, so I couldn't exactly judge the relationship between the way a room collapsed and the amount of rubble produced. The only thing I knew for sure was that we'd managed to escape being buried alive, but the fact that we were still locked in hadn't changed. Well, at least the least the porter terminal that we were hearing earlier. That clearly got shut down, so we should be able to summon our D swords.
ディソードで壊せばいい。
It finally occurred to me that the bizarre resonant sound from earlier had finally stopped. Maybe the earthquake had destroyed the evidence. The device, excuse me, I don't know where I got evidence. The device that had been the source. I think it was called a porter? If that was true, then Sena might be able to get us out of here. I breathed a sigh of relief, then waited to hear Sena's brilliant plan of escape. However, she didn't take out her D-sword. She simply continued to glare at Hatano-san.
あの二人と何を話していた？
昔話だ。互いに分かり合うことのできないね。
分かり合うことのできない？本当にそうか？今でもつながりがあるんじゃないのか？この半年どこで何をしていた？今になってこの場所に都合よく現れたのはなぜだ？このビルのどこかで私たちをモニタしていたからじゃないのか？
私はこの半年渋谷を徘徊していただけの死にたがりだ。天聖振興会にもNOZOMIテクノロジーにも戻るつもりはない。
Sena gave a light click of her tongue and turned toward me.
あの二人が殺されたと思う根拠は？
それはだから。
彼らは敵が多い。
Hatano stepped in.
誰に殺されても納得できる。
お前には聞いてないと言っているだろ。
でもほら、悲鳴とか銃声が聞こえて。
本当にそうか？単なる演技の可能性は？そもそもスピーカーから聞こえていたあの二人の声はリアルタイムのものか？
What was she talking about?
地震対策がしっかりしてる日本でNOZOMIグループという日本を代表する巨大企業の本社ビルがこれほどの地震被害を受けている。それだけとんでもない地震が起きたということだ。そんな状況でなぜあの二人はこの部屋のスピーカーでベラベラと裏事情を話してくれたんだ。
You do raise a good point, actually. Sena painstakingly enunciated her each and every word, as if to make sure I knew exactly what I was claiming. Classified information? What, like Noah 2 and the Third Melt? Not that I knew anything about them either way.
これ見よがしに感じる。奴らは裏事情を私たちに意図的に聞かせる必要があったのかもしれない。あの二人は実在しているのか？地震が起きる前にすでに死んでいた可能性は？西条、私もお前もこのビルに乗り込んでからあの二人とは一度も会っていない。そうだな。
でもモニターで喋ってた。
モニターの中でだろ？実際に会ったわけじゃない。あんなものいくらでも細工できる。スピーカーについても言うまでもない。何か変だ。不可解だ。それに私は。
Hatano, staring at me with wide eyes, interrupted Sena.
西条、匠君。君がそうなのか？そうか、君が。
動くな。
Sena, in response to being ignored, called out to Hatano-san in a sharp voice.
もう一度聞く。お前はなぜここにいる？
お前たちを助けに来た。いや、殺されに来たというのが本心かもしれない。
心配しなくてもすぐに殺してやる。でもその前に質問に答えろ。私たちがここにいることを どうして知っていた？
強い心の呼びかけを感じた。
ギガロマニアックスでもないお前がどうしてそれを感じることができるんだ？いや、ギガロマニアックスでさえ心の呼びかけなんていう曖昧な妄想を感知できるのはごく一部だけだ。
Someone like Kozapi, for example. Come to think of it, I wonder how she's doing. Was she caught up in the earthquake? I hope she's safe.
本当に感じたのか？最初から知っていたんじゃないのか？私たちがこの部屋におびき寄せられたことを。
冷静になれセナ。憎しみに心を支配されているぞ。
冷静になれだと？ずっと殺したいと思っていた人間を目の前にして冷静でいられるはずがないだろう。
考えすぎてはいけない。物事は陰謀論ほど複雑ではなく、もっとシンプルだ。
この場にお前が現れるのは都合が良すぎるんだ。最初から仕組まれたことじゃないのか？この部屋におびき出されて監禁された私たち、地震直後に現れたお前という存在、スピーカーからのこれ見よがしの陰謀論風な演説とその不可解な中断。そもそもこの部屋が望みのビルである確証もない。私たちが気絶している間に別の場所に運び込まれていたとしたら、望みのビルに内装だけ模してある部屋、地震など起きていなくて散乱している瓦礫も人為的に配置したもの。
Okay, I mean, I've seen a lot of really crazy shit in this game's story, between the first story route and the several other heroines' routes I've seen so far. But even I think that even Sena's theories here are a little bit far-fetched. Even I think she might be being a little bit overly paranoid here. The more words Sena threw out, the more unsure I became on what to believe. It felt like the very foundation of knowledge I had always relied on was collapsing, like it was being pulled apart piece by piece.
疑心暗鬼は己を滅ぼす。気をしっかり持て、セナ。
お前に名前を呼ばれたくはない。会話をするつもりもない。質問に答えろ。
地震は起きた。確実にだ。渋谷のあらゆる建物は崩壊しかかっている。死傷者は4桁以上だろう。
それを証明する方法を持っているのか？
その壁を崩してみるといい。お前の理想度で。
Sena threw out her right hand as if she was shaking something off. Her D-sword materialized in an instant. Sena swung it down toward the wall without hesitation. The D-sword smoothly cleaved through the wall like a hot knife through butter. The wall broke down. Immediately after, a fierce, chilly wind blew through the room. The scenery from behind the destroyed wall was laid bare before us. And what we saw there was death. Lots and lots of death. Shibuya, transformed into literal ruins of death. Just a few hours ago, it had been crowded with people. Flashy videos were playing in an insane volume from various jumbotrons, and it was overflowing with glittering decorations, things all befitting of the city of youth. But now, almost all the iconic buildings had collapsed, and those that had survived were either leaning at a sharp incline, or had violent cracks gradually eroding away at them. Not a single car remained on the road. The asphalt had caved in at multiple points, and had risen up at many others. Pitch black smoke billowed from numerous locations, and disappeared into the blackened sky. That was the Shibuya we saw from atop the skyscraper. Sena had only been jumping at shadows, and I was no better. There was no mistaking it. We were still on the 31st floor of the NOZOMI building, and an earthquake had occurred. There was no telling when the building we were in would collapse. If the building were to fall, I'd have no chance of surviving. It would end with me being crushed under endless tons of rubble. I could be buried for all eternity, with my body never being found. I needed to get out as fast as humanly possible. Trembling violently, I surveyed the room. Huh? My eyes instinctively honed in on an object. A monitor that had fallen to the floor.
単なる地震でここまで被害が大きくなるはずがない。ノア2か。
そうだ。サードメルト。ノア2の最終稼働実験だ。
Half of the LCD screen was broken, so nothing was displayed on it. However, the remaining half was tenaciously staying lit. I didn't think it had been on when I looked earlier, but I wasn't completely sure.
サードメルト。お前も関わっているのか。
言っただろう。私はもう半年以上前にのぞみから逃げ出した人間だよ。
のぞみだけじゃない。お前は私や母さんや妹からも逃げたんだ。
ああ、認める。
Only half listening to Sena and Hatano-san's strained arguing, I crouched down in front of the monitor. There were letters on it. Text was being displayed. Oh. Is that you, Shogun? What the? A chat room? They'd said my name. Why? Why had they said my name? What did they mean, are you seeing this? The whole thing creeped me out. Who'd written it? Their handles seemed to be corrupted. How did they know my name? How did they know I was in this building, let alone this very room? Maybe it was Grimm? I never asked him before, but what if he was actually some crazy super hacker all along? Well, Grimm is certainly crazy, if nothing else. And I guess you could say she is a super hacker, but not of the computing variety, if you catch my meaning. Or maybe it was Shogun like usual. Was he reading my mind again? Prepping to give me my next quest? The sight of Nanami covered in blood resurfaced in my mind. Right, Nanami was being imprisoned somewhere. If this was in any way related to Nanami, she could be killed if I didn't respond to this message. I crouched down to the keyboard that had fallen down near the monitor, then let out a single groan. I had no idea whether or not the keyboard was actually connected to the monitor. All I could do was pray that it would work. And so, I pressed the N key. Why N? You can see it, so... My input was reflected on the monitor. Seems like I could use the keyboard to type in chat after all, under the temporary handle guest. I replied with N, i.e. no, since their message hadn't clarified what I was supposed to be seeing. What was I supposed to be seeing? Since I didn't know that yet, I couldn't answer why, i.e. yes, until I knew more. Nanami's life could be at stake, so I had to be even more careful than usual. Yeah, I guess that actually makes sense. You responded to our query, so I believe it's safe to assume you are seeing this. Our query? Another message arrived. I am grateful we were able to establish contact with you. We are the Committee of 300. Huh? Wait, so it wasn't Shogun? It was the Committee of 300? I heard that name over and over today. Those old guys that had supposedly been killed earlier, Kuramochi and Inohana, had both said they were a part of the Committee of 300.
Nishijo, どうした?
Sena peeked over my shoulder at the monitor.
なんだそれは?
わからない。僕に名指しで呼びかけてきて。
Aoi Sena, you too are being monitored by us. All three of you are. Nishijo Takumi, Aoi Sena, and Hatano Issei. Alarmed, both my gaze and Sena's snapped to the ceiling. Were they watching us with security cameras? There were several things in the room that looked like cameras, but all of them had been destroyed by the earthquake and therefore weren't working. The other monitors were completely silent too.
そいつ何者だ? 何をバカな。300人委員会だと証明することはできるのか?
We are the Committee of 300 as our introduction already provided.
西条、そう打ち込め。
Before I could even start typing, another message appeared. You needn't type. You are being monitored in real time. However, not by traditional means. There are no surveillance cameras present in the room. The devices of your world are unnecessary, at least to us. To put it simply, understand that we possess the viewpoint of God, seeing all from a higher order layer being. There is no possible way for you to verify this system, nor even the concept. In a similar manner, we regrettably have no means by which to validate us as the Committee of 300 either. You will simply have to go by our word. So Dumb and Dumber weren't killed by Norose after all? It was you guys? If that's the case, then where's Norose?
ノア2の攻撃? それともギガロマニアックスからの妄想攻撃か? 西条、こいつが将軍の可能性は?
There was no way I could figure that out with how little we'd been given. I shook my head from side to side. To her, it probably looked like I was about to cry. Sena responded with an irritated click of her tongue.
さっき胃の花と倉持を殺した殺人鬼じゃん。
いや、むしろ可能性が一番高いのはこいつが胃の花か倉持のどちらかということだろう。300人委員会を名乗ってるぐらいだしな。
Sena proceeded to point the tip of her D-sword at Hatano-san. She one-handed the gigantic, viciously sharp sword with incredible ease.
あるいはお前の差し金による罠かもしれない。
私がこのような細工をする意味はない。
Squatting down to look at the monitor was tiring out my legs, and reading the text in the dark was equally taxing. To combat this, I shoved some debris off of a table and placed the monitor on top of it.
倉持と井ノ花以外の300人委員会メンバーかもしれない。何しろ300人いるのだから。
Hence the name.
いずれにせよ、こいつが本物ならという前提がつく。自分から名乗る黒幕はドラマや映画の中だけだ。
本物か偽物かという判断は今はそれほど優先されるべきことではない。重要なのはこの自称300人委員会メンバーが井ノ花と倉持を殺した殺人鬼なのかそうでないかだ。
Indeed, we disposed of Inohana and Kuramochi. Well, I guess that clears that mystery up, at least. So those two really were killed. They sought to betray us, you see. Of course, we have long been aware of this breach of faith. They were not disposed of because they were considered a threat. For the odds of their plan bearing fruit were null. It is simply necessary to eliminate programs that contain errors. This is merely some debugging, essentially. I guess I really shouldn't be surprised that an organization such as this speaks in such dehumanizing terms, even towards its own members.
倉持たちがモニターしていた部屋からコンタクトしてきているかもしれない。
でもだったらなんでスピーカーを使わないの？
声を聞かれたくないからだろう。正体を知られたくないんだ。
僕らの知ってる誰かなの？
書き込んでいる男はかなり慎重だということだよ。いや、男かどうかも不明だが。
この書き込みをしているのが猪花か倉持で単なる自作自演だとしたら、
猪花と倉持の2人での仲違いだというのか？
そうかもしれないし、実は2人とも生きていて私たちを騙しているだけかもしれない。
騙す意図について推測できているのか？
We would prefer if you didn't misunderstand.
だったら何者だって言うんだ。神だとでも言うつもりか。
Neither Kuramochi nor Inohana were members of the Committee of 300. They were merely under the impression that they were, and it was us who implanted this idea within them. Now there's a plot twist. They proved convenient pawns in our guise. The same can be said for all those involved in the Committee of 300 conspiracy theory. Us true members have yet to take the stage. Even if we were to consider doing so, that much is not possible. For we do not exist in your world.
このチャット相手との議論はしない方がいいかもしれない。相手の意図が不明だ。言葉しか見えないのでは、いくらでもフェイクの情報を織り交ぜることができる。
The advice was solid, but the text on the monitor kept appearing rapidly. I couldn't get a read on the guys behind the handle. They knew a terrifying amount of information about us. Calling us God would be appropriate. We are the 300, each of us with our own assigned districts. We are those who administer your world. Our administration aims to erase errors and establish order. For as I finished reading everything they had written up until that point, an idea suddenly popped in my head. It was something I had thought about many times before.
ゲームマスターっていうこと？
ゲームマスター？どういう意味だ？
演出で言えば開発者側ってこと。もっとわかりやすく言うなら中の人だよ。
ちっともわからないぞ。
Rubbing her temples, a sour look crossed her face. Kids these days. She's around the same age as you are, man. Well, physically at least. Technically, no. She's actually older than you. You're the kid here. Nishijo Takumi's explanation is accurate. We are the game masters who administer the progression of this MMORPG. You are all players, or perhaps NPCs. Fuck you! I'm not an NPC. I'm the PC. NPC, video game terminology, short for non-player character. A term used in tabletop RPGs that has recently been adopted into online games. As the name suggests, it's a character that is not controlled by a player. The theory I'd had delusions upon delusions about have been true all along. The Illuminati's real! There was a person outside my reality controlling me, just like how I controlled Nineheart. Someone was controlling me in the same way. Hello.
だったら僕の中の人に言ってよ。キャラメイキングを今すぐやり直せって。もっと僕を操作する腕を上げろって。
Well, if I had the knowledge of this game's engine and coding, and pretty much all the other skills I would need in order to remake this world, I'd probably consider it. But I don't. I shot that at the monitor. I felt Sena's puzzled gaze land on my back.
Cheat code?
The reason we've established contact with you is because we have a request. If you agree to cooperate, we have prepared a cheat code as compensation.
すごいぞ。チートは裏技みたいなものだよ。
This is a fucking trap.
変数で言えば、そのコードを入力するだけでレベル1だったキャラを一瞬でレベル50にできたり、あとはドロップ率 0.025% の超レアアイテムを何の苦労もせずにいきなり手に入れたりできるんだ。もしチートコードがあるなら僕はもう弱っちい肝タじゃなくなるんだ。本当の勇者になれるかも。三次元女子とも気取らずに喋られるようになる。
Well, I sincerely doubt they'll be able to pull that last one, even with cheat codes. This was the exact epic plot point moment I've been hoping for, becoming the strongest and most popular character without any actual effort. Basically, you want to be One Punch Man, or at least One Punch Man at the beginning of the story. Because I do know, I'm not actually too familiar with that series. I haven't read it or anything like that. But I do know that, the basic setup here is that, well, One Punch Man has basically already completed his story before the story begins proper. He's beaten everything. He's the world's strongest man. So he can just basically one-shot everything at that point without any real effort whatsoever. Hence the name One Punch Man. But yeah, Takumi wants to be One Punch Man. Anyway, OP. OP, video game terminology, short for overpowered. Used when referring to a character, ability, or some other thing in the game that is too powerful compared to everything else. Players often complain whenever faced with something they considered overpowered. But when they themselves find themselves using something of a similar level, they remain silent. Yep, 'tis the hypocrisy of the OP. After all, it's incredibly exhilarating to be in a position where you can trounce enemies left and right with no real difficulty. That's true at first, but then it gets boring. But then it quickly gets boring because you just end up taking away the challenge from yourself. Holy shit! This is actually happening. The Committee of 300 are actual real fucking gods. But actually. This is so fucking awesome sauce. Holy shit! I think he's losing it. God! Net slang. A degradation of the word god. Used to refer to extremely respected figures. I don't know if the term is meant to be a degradation of the respected figure in something, then is it really respectful to use the term? Similar to God tier, a way of referring to something as if it were on the level of a god, i.e. extremely good.
それがチートコードだとして本当にあると思うのか？このチャット相手は高次存在らしいが、そんな神のような存在が私たちと同じ言葉や用語を使っているのはなぜだ？
Well, similar to how some creatures in works of fictions will assume forms that you're comfortable with lest they drive you mad or something with their true forms, I imagine the same. I imagine it's also, this is a case where they're just communicating with us in terminologies and in languages that we can understand. Because if they actually spoke to us in the way they probably normally communicate, it would be incomprehensible to our ears or something. Something like that.
これは罠だ。詭弁だ。
Unfortunately, your conjecture proves incorrect. I assure you our usage of familiar terms to you is fully intentional. The words we frequently make use of do not exist in your world. See?
僕は信じる。
Your belief or lack thereof lies with you. Choose not to believe us, and we will resort to entertaining other methods. I want to believe them. I didn't want to continue living in fear any longer. If I was able to get a power even stronger than Shogun's, I'd be able to live in peace.
神ならば、なぜ自らの力を行使しない？
We are grateful for your cooperation, Nishijo Takumi. We would like you to eliminate an error for us. What you three know is Noah 2. It has the capability to severely disrupt the balance of the game, and in the worst case scenario, it may cause crashes or even wipe the game data entirely. But yeah, Hatano brings a really good point. If you truly are a god, as you say, why is this not within your own power to resolve? Why do you need a Takumi to do your dirty work for you?
頭が痛くなってくる。
At present time, Noah 2 has effectively forced your world into autistic mode. So we're basically in 4chan's poll mode right now, right? In other words, it accepts only minimal interference from us. The game masters cannot directly intervene in the game. In the end, we are nothing more than your administrators. In order to eliminate errors, we require your cooperation. For gods, you certainly do have your limitations.
口から出任せにしか思えない。直接介入できないというなら、どうやって胃の鼻と倉持を排除した？
Another excellent question.
協力じゃなくて、私たちを利用したいだけだろ。
We have other cooperators. You may think of them all as debuggers. However, none of them hold the power necessary to destroy Noah 2. For this, we require the cooperation of Gigalomaniacs. I think I missed a couple tips, didn't I? Debugging. The process of removing and or fixing bugs in a program. The software dedicated to this task or the person who does the debugging are known as debuggers. Yeah, I knew that much. Autistic mode. Autism is a neurological condition characterized by atypical communication and language development. In various Japanese sci-fi media, the term autistic mode was adopted, in order to describe a situation in which all communication is shut off, rendering the entity completely isolated from the rest of the world. Featured in the sci-fi manga that popularized this term, cybernetically enhanced brains are one such entity. It'd be nice if you could give me a name for this manga, if it's actually based on something real. But I get it. It's probably for copyright reasons why they can't mention the name.
それは確かに。
Call it whatever you wish. We will not deny it. However, we are confident our interests align here. Well, hey, at least they're honest about that, if nothing else.
巧妙だな。一連の書き込みを見ていると、300人委員会は実在しているとも実在していないとも取れる。これがノア2による攻撃である可能性もある。
でも井の花と倉持がノア2を使って300人委員会を裏切ろうとしてたのは本当のことだったじゃないか。あいつら自身がそう説明してたよ。
あの時点から妄想による攻撃が始まっていたとしたら、さっきも言っただろう。モニターやスピーカーで喋っていた井の花と倉持が本物である証拠は一つもない。
Well, if this is an attack by NOZOMI or any of Norose's goons, we'd be hearing the sound of a Noah 2 terminal right about now in the background somewhere.
さっきからセナは疑ってばかりじゃないか。
この状況で信じられるのは自分だけだ。世界は全て電気仕掛けで、電気信号に細工するだけで簡単に見ているものを捏造できる。ここから見える崩壊した渋谷の光景も、この瓦礫だらけの部屋も、300人委員会を名乗る存在からの書き込みも、今この場でこうして話している西条や。
Sena shy glance at Hatano-san.
この男ですらも偽物かもしれないんだ。
セナ。
Nothing in this world is real except for me! This applies to human death as well. Oh, wait, there's something I missed there. If your mind is but an electronic device, and your feelings electrical signals, then the hatred you feel towards your father must also be programmed in. This applies to human death as well. Therefore, you have no need to feel any more of the sadness you feel over the cruel deaths of your mother and younger sister. Do you deny this? Oof. Sena gritted her teeth. Her expression grew angrier and angrier.
これは妄想だ。私の心への攻撃だ。惑わされないぞ。に?
Well then, here is our proposition. If you succeed in destroying Noah 2, we shall revive your mother and younger sister. Hold up! You said you can't directly interfere in our world. And reviving not one but two people from the dead, that's basically as godlike of a power as you can think of, really. So you're contradicting yourselves here. If you can't interfere in the world and destroy Noah 2 yourselves, why should we believe that you'd be able to resurrect someone from the dead? Something which would require you to directly interact with the world that we're in. What gives?
セナ、言葉に流されるな。この書き込みが精神攻撃かもしれないと言ったのはお前自身だ。
でも
チートコードなら可能かも。何しろ相手は神だし。
本当なのか?
All things that make up this world are electronic devices. You said so yourself, Aoi Sena. If you were to examine electronic devices at a more conceptual level, you would find that they are composed merely of digital data. Concepts such as life and death are just more fabrications. Bringing a person back from death exactly as they were, with all their memories intact, would present no trouble at all. For game masters, for us game masters, that is. I don't believe you.
判断を誤るな。お前はそう信じたいだけだ。現実に蘇ることなどない。
うるさい！お前は黙ってろ！
心の負い目につけ込まれているぞ。相手は巧妙だ。こいつは神などではない。今確信した。ただの詐欺師だ。神は自己完結した存在でなければならない。生死の概念そのものを持ち合わせていないし、理解できない。そういう存在だ。
黙れと言ってるだろ！お前の宗教観は聞いてない！
Sena's D-sword once again found itself pointed at Hatano-san.
元はといえばお前がいけないんだ。お前が母さんを殺しさえしなければ。
その償いはするつもりだ。私を殺しても構わない。むしろ私はそれを望む。だから母さんを蘇らせようなどという虚言を信じるな。
そうやって逃げようとするのが一番許せないんだ。
Oh, for fuck's sake. Now wasn't a time for some father-daughter screaming match. Maybe I should just leave these two behind. Then I can go and take the cheat code for myself. Takumi, could you get your head out of the clouds for a minute? You're thinking, the kind of thinking you're engaging in right now is dangerous. And stupid.
今決めた。お前は殺さない。ノア2を破壊して、母さんが生き返っても、お前には合わせない。
And Sena, you're starting to think as stupidly as Takumi is right now.
そして一生後悔し続けろ。
どこまでも純粋だな、セナ。感情に突き動かされながら電気仕掛けの世界を願うか。お前は矛盾している。すまない。私がお前をそうさせてしまった。
父親面をするな。今さらそんな顔しても私はお前を認めない。おい、私たちを見ているお前。
Sena looked toward the ceiling and shouted out.
チートコードの入手方法を教えろ。
Hatano-san said nothing more. All he did was stand there with a sad look on his face. His shoulders sagged. It seems you finally come to your senses.
鍵は
The cheat code has already been sent to your world. However, that being said, our ability to interfere freely has been inhibited. We were not able to place it where you are now. We must ask you to retrieve it for us. It is located underground in Shibuya Station. You will find it in a coin locker near the ticket gate of Fukutoshin Line. It has been placed in locker 1009.
さすが神、用意がいい。
The coin locker is the type which uses an IC card to lock, authenticate, and give payment. The required data has already been sent to Aoi Sena's card. IC card. A card that has an IC, or integrated circuit, chip built into it. In addition to being used as telephone cards, as well as an electronic payment method, contactless IC cards have recently been introduced to public transportation, particularly rail transport, as a contactless alternative to boarding passes.
チートコードってどんな形をしてるの？
That's something not even we know? Okay, now I know you were bullshitting me. Whatever the Hey, get back there. Oh. Hey, I can read it through this way. That's convenient. Okay. Whatever item present in your world that it has taken the form of is unimportant. Regardless of its form, once you obtain the code, the moment you fulfill a condition, the cheat code will activate. To fulfill the condition, you need simply to destroy the item it has taken the form of. The target, Noah 2, is located directly above the coin locker. It can be found in the planetarium near the east entrance of Shibuya Station. Upon obtaining the cheat code, you must destroy the planetarium. And with that, everything will fall into place. We pray for your success. You are fucking bullshitting me! For the love of God, Takumi, Sena, don't fall for this shit! The monitor immediately went black. With only a dull click, the committee was gone. Even though we hadn't touched a thing. I was overflowing with excitement. I met God, the person controlling me. The world turned out to be structured in a multi-layered fashion, and I was able to talk to someone on a higher layer. I could get a real-life cheat code. I could say farewell to my shitty life forever. I'd become invincible! Nobody, and I mean nobody, would be able to scare me anymore. Shogun, Yua, and NOZOMI technology would no longer be my enemies. I'd won! I'd won at life! Say that until after you actually win. If you can. Which I doubt you will. I wanted to head for Shibuya Station immediately. I wanted to get my hands on that cheat code as soon as possible. But despite that, Sena continued to waste time. She kept her sword pointed directly at Hatano-san. Her head hung low.
Sena, 行かないの?
Sena, hearing my call, let out a small sigh, then lowered her sword. Without so much as a glance at Hatano-san, she walked straight past me, and then she casually swung her D-sword. And with that, the rubble blocking her path was cleanly dispersed.
Iko.
She spoke in a subdued voice, one that was far removed from the rage she had been showing only a moment prior. We're really doing this, aren't we? Alright, it's your funeral. Hatano Issei watched his daughter and Nishijo Takumi leave until they fell out of sight. And once they did, he took a seat in the middle of the rubble. I wished to talk with God for just a moment longer. As he became the last remaining person in the room, he said those words into the air. His daughter Sena had looked like she had something to tell him. But instead, she had simply thrown a sharp glare his way, only to click her tongue, turn her head away, and leave without saying a word. Nothing had escaped Hatano's lips either.
300人委員会まだ見ているのか?
He faced a silent, pitch-black monitor and called out to it. There was no response for a while, leaving Hatano to continue staring emptily at the monitor. Eventually, the screen roared back to life, displaying the chat log from before. Why? It responded with why, meaning yes.
なぜセナと西条匠なんだ? 300人委員会にとってこちらの世界はどのような定義なんだ? ゲームか実験場か牧場か?
The Worldwide Human Domestication Project. A term that would find its way into any discussion about the famous Committee of 300 conspiracy. Those who knew the conspiracy speculate that the Committee of 300 means to establish a one-world government to unify the world, and once they do, they shall guide the world through the creation of a new world order. Aside from a selection of chosen people, all of humanity will be subjected to semi-permanent brainwashing, applied via a silent weapon, turning them into mindless slaves. Just like livestock, their flesh, milk, labor, children, and very lives shall endlessly be stolen away by the elite. Should this be realized, it would perhaps be humanity's cruelest, most systematic utopia of all. Unknowingly having their wills stolen from them and being automated as livestock, the remains of humanity would be constantly exploited, all the while continuing to live their lives in blissful ignorance. As they would have no way to know of their exploitation, they would never raise any objections, nor rebel against their circumstances.
世界人間牧場計画が妄想だとしても、沈黙の兵器は妄想ではない。現にノア2が存在している。そして世界は再びお前たちの秩序のもとに置かれるのか。無自覚の奴隷としてお前たちに搾取され続けるのか。
As Hatano spoke, a horrifying possibility stemming from his own words came to him, and his brow furrowed.
世界人間牧場計画はすでに完了している。最初の質問に答えろ。
You were all already livestock from the moment of this world's inception. Well, so I guess from this statement we can basically surmise that in the world of Chaos Head Noah, and I guess Science Adventure series by proxy, free will doesn't actually exist. It's all determinism, basically. That's depressing as hell.
300人委員会にとってこちらの世界はゲームなのか実験場なのか牧場なのか。
In response to Hatano, the corrupted handle fell silent.
時間？時間とは何のことだ？君たちだと。まさかセナや西条匠も。
Yeah, this pretty much confirms what I've already suspected. This is basically a trap. They're gonna kill us once we serve our purpose. Yep, we're in trouble. The monitor abruptly went black. It was no different than a death sentence.
Sena.
Clamping his teeth down on his lip, Hatano frantically stood up. If he left now, perhaps he would still be able to catch the two of them before they reached Shibuya Station. He had to tell them that it was a trap. He did not want to let his daughter die. After killing his wife and second daughter, she was the only family he had left. No matter how much hatred she held for him, all he wanted was for her to live. For this reason, Hatano ran. And yet, in the end, he was not able to escape the NOZOMI technology building. for before he could, the sound of an explosion, combined with a furious vibration, ripped through the building. It was not collapsing due to the earthquake, however. The sound alone told him it was by the hand of man. But knowingness did not change his fate. The ground beneath his feet collapsed, and, as if the lid had been lifted off the cauldron of hell itself, the earth opened wide and swallowed up the insignificant existence that was Hatano Ise. Probably the work of another committee of 300 collaborator, I assume. Going on a walk through Shibuya finally helped things sink in. I finally came to terms with just how horrifying the earthquake that hit the city truly was. Not a single trace of the once dazzling city remained. The city was dead. Shibuya was now a city of death. Countless unmoving bodies littered the streets, some lying alone, others piled on top of one another. Various sections of the main road were deeply stained with pools of blood. Nothing was alive. Everyone was dead. Everyone. Hatano-sen had said something earlier about the casualties being in the thousands, and the sole cause of all this suffering was Noah too. This wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't even any kind of disaster at all. This was an atrocity, a massacre. Sena, who was just a few steps ahead of me, had an intense look of sorrow on her face. Hatano-sen hadn't come with us. We had left him behind at the NOZOMI technology building. They were father and daughter, apparently, but they didn't really act like it. It felt like Sena had some sort of one-sided intense hatred toward her father. They had mentioned Sena's mother and younger sister during their conversation. What had happened between the two of them? Whatever it was, it must have been what had led to Sena's heart and mind being broken. That's what you get for not paying attention, Mr. Cheat Goat Hunter. Despite me wondering that, I didn't plan on asking for some detailed account of what happened or anything. Not that I knew how to in the first place. Besides, our number one priority at the moment was obtaining the cheat code. Once we had that, I wouldn't need Sena to protect me anymore. I'd be able to live on my own. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from behind me. Thinking it was another earthquake, I immediately got down on my hands and knees. But the ground wasn't shaking. I slowly and cautiously looked behind me, toward where the NOZOMI main office we were just in should have been standing. Smoke was pouring into the sky. It looked like the end result of an erupting volcano. And the building that should have been there wasn't there. God. Had it collapsed? But Hatano-sen was still in there. A small whimper escaped Sena's lips. She looked up at the smoke filling the sky in a daze. After a moment, she noticed my gaze and quickly turned the other way. However, her shoulders continued to tremble.
こんなことなら私がこの手で殺しておくんだった。殺しておけば。
だったらあの人も生き返らせればいい。
Once we got our hands on the cheat code, we could do that. There was no reason we couldn't, as long as we believed what what 300 had said. I'll just call it 300.
殺すために生き返らせるのか。非効率的だな。
Yeah, it kind of is. Sena laughed to herself, but her voice was muffled by her tears. I didn't really know what to say to her, so I just hung my head. Sena fought back her tears for a while, but eventually, as if she'd made up her mind about something, she started moving forward once again. And now, not a single tear remained on her face. I hurriedly followed after her. Underground Shibuya Station was home to both the Hanzaman line and the newly constructed Fukoshin line, which had a far more complicated structure to it. There was also a Ginza line platform located 2 floors above ground, but it was still treated as a subway service. Ask pretty much anyone, and they'd tell you that the place was pretty much a dungeon. And not only that, but the earthquake that had caused all stairways leading underground to collapse, and now they were all buried in rubble. Sena had been able to use her D-sword to blast away the rubble and clear a path for us, so it hadn't posed much of a problem, but due to the lack of proper lighting, finding the right coin locker had been taking a lot more time than expected. And if that weren't enough, the air filtration system had stopped, leaving the air disgusting and filled with dust. My coughing refused to stop, to the point where I felt like I was going to die. And the stench of death wafting off the scattered corpses didn't help either. Sena had finally located the coin locker, which was somehow standing tall with no signs of any noticeable damage. To our astonishment and subsequent relief, the locker still had power running to it. Something that was made clear by the bright glow of the IC card reader. Please make a selection was displayed on the screen. Retrieve and deposit were the only 2 buttons available.
本当にこんな何の変哲もないロッカーにチートコードが置いてあるのか。
The locker had been there since before the earthquake. A whole bunch of customers would have passed through here before us. On a normal day, no one would have paid it any mind. Just how many people actually used lockers like these in the first place? I couldn't imagine there'd be that many. Upon closer inspection, it occurred to me that almost all of the other lockers were buried in rubble. And behind that single closed door was something beyond imagination. Urban legends like that had been floating around for decades. It wasn't especially strange or anything like that. It was fairly grounded in reality, actually. A small container that you could find very easily throughout your ordinary life, housing something extraordinary. That was the idea behind it. When I pushed the retrieve button, a small message popped up saying, "Please scan your card."
箱の中に残っているのは希望か、あるいは絶望か。
Sena dug out her IC card from her pocket and slowly approached the screen. With an electronic beep, the sound of a lock releasing came from the locker. The sound echoed ominously throughout the dead silent underground. Sena and I stood anchored to the spot, and then we both checked our surroundings. We had come face to face with the cheat code. What form it'd take, neither of us knew. Please don't let it be something gross. or anything gory. Personally, if I had a choice, I'd want it to be a Saratan figure. Of course you would. Yeah, that'd be the best possible outcome. It'd be the worst possible outcome. Sena wiped the sweat beading on her brow.
1009番だったな。
Yep. The locker we were looking at was the second from the left, and the third from the top. The door was fairly big, and had 1009 written on it. Yeah, now that thinking about it now, the fact that they were able to deposit the money and information and that they would need to open this locker into Sena's card, that's further proof that they do have the means to actually influence the physical world. Which, again, brings into question why they can't take care of Noah 2 themselves directly. Makes them look even more suspicious. The locker was ever so slightly ajar. All we can see inside that slight gap was uncertain, unending darkness. Sena and I stare at the locker, frozen in place. You open it. Even though she didn't say it out loud, I could feel Sena telling me that. Granted, I was doing the same thing, so we were both equally cowardly. Come on, you do it, I told her inside my head. I thought about letting a game of rock, paper, scissors make the decision for us, but it wasn't a time to mess around like that.
Sena
Should open it, was what I was going to say, but I was interrupted.
開けろ、西条。
Sena took a step back and readied her sword.
もしもの場合は、私が援護する。
What the hell do you mean, just in case?
急げ!
Okay, I guess it's only our neck on the line. I mean, who cares if we end up kicking the bucket, right, Takumi? After all, we're unimportant. We're just an otaku freak. Nobody would weep if we died. Except Nanami. And Rimi. I still felt like she was going to stick me with the tip of her sword any second now. Then you better hop to it! My throat went dry from the anxiety. But my recently unearthed hope resurfaced once again. If I surpass this trial, I can become a hero. With this adage etched upon my heart, I summoned all my remaining courage. I placed my hand on the half-open locker door.
開けるよ。
ああ。
I slowly opened the door. It opened easier than I expected. And inside, I found...
なんだ、これは。
I do not like the look of this. Sena and I peeked into the locker, at a loss for words. A bundle of cloth, a white bundle of cloth? That looks pink to me. Or maybe it's just the lighting. It was bigger than I expected. But right when I reached out to touch it... Okay, I wasn't just imagining it. I thought that thing looked like a baby, but I wasn't 100% sure. Oh no. This wouldn't happen to be Sena's dead sister, right? I pulled my hand back in a panic at the sudden voice. It's... No way. It's...
赤ちゃん。
A live baby had been in the locker? I mean, it had been decades since then, but abandoned children being found in coin lockers had been a fairly large social issue at one point. Jesus Christ. That sounds like a story in of itself. But for it to be happening now? Wait, that didn't matter right now. Where was the cheat code? I think this is the cheat code. I double-checked the locker number. It was unmistakably 1009. So that must have meant... Sena gently picked it up as it continued to wail, handling it like a fragile object that would fall to pieces if she let go of it. The baby's cries grew louder and louder. Sena grimaced as her body stiffened and locked in place. She looked at me with fleeting eyes.
西条、助けろ。どうしたらいいんだ。
You could just try rocking it back and forth in your arms. Slowly, gently, don't be rough. It's a baby after all. Whisper to it. Coo at it, you know, just speak softly. Anyway, going by the hair color, I don't think it's actually related to Sena. Why ask me? I think you should let it suck on your tits. Yeah. No comment.
死ね。
Her glare pierced through me. Has she overheard my delusion just now? Clearly, she did, yeah.
多分この赤ちゃんがチートコードだよ。
I mean, if we thought about what they said... If the baby was the cheat code, it wouldn't activate unless we destroyed it. You want me to kill a baby? Destroy it. In other words, kill it. Hell no! I'm not gonna kill a baby. Fuck this cheat code. I went silent, and Sena glared daggers at me. She shielded the baby with her arms.
できない。できるわけないだろう。あの地震をこんな暗くて狭い場所でたった一人で生き延びたんだぞ。
それはチートコードだよ。地震が起きた後にここに現れたんだ。それは人間じゃない。そう見えてるだけで。
あの自称300人委員会の言葉を信じればな。もし違ったら、あるいはもともとここに置き去りにされていたこの子に後からチートコードだけを埋め込んだかもしれないんだぞ。
I cowered at Sena's horrifically menacing look. Even so, I frantically shot back my rebuttal without looking her in the eye.
だってしょうがないじゃないか。それを壊さないとチートが。
If I lost to Sena here, I'd end up losing the cheat code, and I'd stay an otaku freak for the rest of my miserable life. So killing a fucking defenseless infant is worth that to you?
この子に触ってみろ、西条。この子のぬくもりを感じてみろ。こんな小さい子、お前は殺せるのか？
Of course I can't. I'm completely harmless. That's why you need to do it, Sena. Do it yourself, you fucking coward! But I couldn't actually say any of that.
セナは矛盾してる。ここに来るまでは やる気満々だったじゃないか。世界は電気仕掛けなんでしょ。だったらその子も単なる人形だ。
でも泣いてる。
Sena gently embraced the baby. She had such a tender and loving expression on her face. I couldn't believe she was the same ill-tempered girl from before.
この子は今泣いてるんだ、西条。
She was a total mess. Had Sena been just a complete fucking schizo all along? No, because unlike you, right at this moment, she's the only one of the two of you that's got a working conscience.
シードを発動させてノア2を壊さなきゃ君の家族だって生き返らないぞ。なんでためらうんだよ。
この子は生きているからだ。殺せない。私には。
だったら自分が殺してあげるっすよ。
Oh, great. Look who decided to join us.
え？
A thunderous roar. Unsure what had just happened, I reflexively crouched down. Staying like that, I took a look around me and spotted a single silhouette standing outside the Fukutoshin line ticket gate. They were gripping something that looked like a gun, and they were pointing it in our direction. Sena croaked, and when I looked over at her, I saw her hands covered in blood. For a second, for a split second, I was going to call that fucker out for shooting a baby and call him a baby killer. But then I remembered his freaking squeeze already killed their own child. So I mean, really, I shouldn't be surprised by that he would have the fucking balls to kill a freaking infant himself in this manner. But it wasn't hers. It was coming from the baby she was cradling. The white towel the baby was wrapped in was turning crimson. Sena's entire body trembled violently.
相変わらず自分の射撃の腕素晴らしすぎっすよね。
Take that gun and shove it up your ass, and then pull the trigger until it runs out of bullets. The man continued to walk toward us with the most casual smile on his face. On his back, the man wore a rucksack that clashed heavily with his suit.
こんなところで何の相談してるんすか？っていうかその赤ん坊なんなんす？もしかしてあれっすか？二人の隠し子できちゃった？最近の高校生はなってないっすね。
You just killed a fucking child under these circumstances without having any clue as to why it was down here, why they had it? Jesus Christ! Like seriously, do you make a habit of going around shooting random children or something?
ま、別にどうでもいいっすけど。自分は君たちを始末しに来たんすよ。ノア2の近くで目障りなことされると困るんで。
Was he related to NOZOMI? I felt like I'd seen him somewhere before. He was carrying a gun. Normal people didn't carry a gun. He was gonna kill us. We had to run.
さて、それじゃあまずそっちの危なっかしい通り魔女子高生から始末しましょうかね。
The man raised his gun and pointed directly at Sena. But she didn't react at all. Still clutching the baby, she had broken down in sobs. What do I do? You got the cheat code now. What the hell do I do? I should be invincible now. There's no way I can protect Sena. If I'm invincible, then I can be reckless and stupid and be perfectly fine. Feel like a god yet, son? I had shielded Sena. A fierce pain exploded in my chest, followed by a burning heat that felt like I had caught on fire. My uniform was stained in blood. I'd been shot.
おーっとかっこいいっすね西条匠くん。身を挺して女を守るなんて男の鏡っす。でもそれもいつまで持つかな。
Each time a gunshot ripped through the air, another bullet opened a hole in my body. My blood splattered everywhere. The pain eroded my nerves. Sena was still frozen in place, looking at me with tears in her eyes as she cradled the baby. Over half of the white towel now was covered in a deep shade of red. I could no longer tell if the blood was mine or the baby's.
西条、違う、違う、このままじゃ、お前が。
ジートコードを使って。でも、
私、どうしたら。
This wasn't good. I was gonna lose consciousness. It hurts. 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 I never asked to go through pain like this. With the cheat code, I should be invincible. But if Sena doesn't activate it, I'm gonna die. I could feel him getting closer to me. I could sense a sinister bloodlust overflowing from him. Something cold and solid was pushed into my back. It felt like my wounds were being grilled over hot coals as that cold sensation clawed through them.
よく頑張ったっすね。でもこれで終わりっす。この至近距離で心臓をズドンとやれば、さすがのギガロマニアックスでも死亡確定っすから。
セナ、早く。
Sena only continued to cry. This was it. After all that grinding to get the cheat code, none of it mattered in the end.
くたばれ、クソガキ。
The sensation in my back suddenly disappeared. I thought I had just been shot, but it wasn't a gunshot that I'd heard. It was the sound of the air itself shaking.
俺の腕が
White feathers shimmered and danced through the air. But we were underground. There shouldn't have been any birds here. Despite my consciousness turning foggy and the pain ripping through my entire body, I slowly managed to turn around. And there I saw.
Rimi.
Wow, look who finally decided to show up. Again. Can I expect you to do this if all the other heroines' routes just show up at the very tail end of each of them to Deus Ex Machina, either an exposition, a save, or both? Clasped in her hands was a sword so elegant, so beautiful, yet its form was unendingly sinister. I'd never seen anything like it. It was Rimi. Rimi, who had disappeared on me before, was here. She looked at me with a smile filled with sorrow. Large quantity of blood poured from the man's arm. Everything from the elbow down had been severed. The hand holding the gun rolled around on the ground. Had Rimi done that?
No, ama. 俺の手をよくは。
ナナちゃんにひどいことしたくせに。
Don't forget all the other people don't forget all the other people he's killed. Rimi avoided my dumbfounded gaze. She simply stood in front of the man, shielding us.
早く外へ。事情は大体理解してるから。ノア2を壊して、葵さん、タク。
That sharp voice brought me back to my senses. But when I tried to move my body, even just a little bit, I was tortured by unrelenting pain. I wanted to collapse on the spot. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to think. But most of all, I didn't want to die. My consciousness was fading. I was fully aware of the blood flowing out of the wounds covering my entire body. Despair and the fear of death threatened to overwhelm me, but I fought them back and held onto Sena's shoulders.
行こう。今のうちに。
すまない。日常。私をかばって。そんなに。
Sena's eyes were clouded with tears. It was the first time I had ever seen her crying face. I guess even level-headed women like Sena cried sometimes. I noticed something else as I held her shoulders. Her body was incredibly frail. I was sure that it wasn't unique to Sena. It probably applied to all IRL girls, really. No, it doesn't. Her body was slender as well, something guys also didn't share. You haven't met certain guys, clearly. On a normal day, she exuded an aura of confidence, arrogance, and so much overwhelming vigor, it felt like she could crush me with it. But at the end of the day, she really was still a girl. It'd be alright. Don't cry, Sena. If we just use the cheat code, it'll heal all these wounds in an instant. It has to. Believing that, I grit my teeth and walked forward. Behind me, I heard the sound of a strange mechanical sound, and a shrieking resonance entangling one another, but I refused to look back anymore. We made it above ground. A trail of blood marked the path we walked. I'd lost a lot of blood. The intense heat I'd been feeling my wounds had been replaced with an unbearable chill. No matter how much I tried to keep it under control, my body kept violently shivering. My teeth wouldn't stop chattering. Looking up, I saw a planetarium standing before us. But the moment I did, I realized something was off. The surrounding buildings had almost entirely collapsed, and the ones that were still standing were covered in cracks and fissures. And yet, the planetarium was completely intact, probably because Noah 2, if I had to guess. Not only that, but I thought the building was supposed to have been demolished years ago. But it still stood tall in front of me. Why? Why hadn't I realized this until now? Why hadn't I questioned it earlier? Was this because some Gigalomaniac's powers? Probably. Or was it Noah's 2 doing? Since Noah 2 is meant to be meant to imitate the powers of a Gigalomaniac, I will also say probably. At any rate, The reason I noticed must have been because of the cheat code. Now we just need to activate it, and then we should be able to destroy the planetarium. Without me supporting her any longer, Sena fell to her knees. She was still heartbroken.
Sena, チート使うんだ。
Even talking was agonizing now. Sena looked back and forth between me and the baby, making her look like she was shaking her head no. But all she did besides that was tremble. I was running out of time. My vision was going blurry. If we didn't activate the cheat code, I was gonna die.
日常、しっかりしろ。女のって死なないで。お願いだから。なあ、日常。世界は天気仕掛けなんかじゃないんだ。私はただ思い込みたかっただけ。母さんと妹を見殺しにしかできなかった自分が許せなくて、気持ち悪いと吐いてしまった自分が許せなくて、二人が死んだのも父さんがあんなことしたのも全部信じたくなくて、感情だって捨て去りたくて。だけどダメなんだ。どうやったって父さんを憎んでしまうし、母さんや妹の死んだことが悲しいし、自分が許せないし、この子死なせたくないんだ。
Damn it. Couldn't rely on Sena anymore. I had to do it on my own, somehow. I reached my hand out to the blood-stained baby Sena was cradling.
貸して。それを。
But Sena refused to let go.
ダメだ、日常、やめろ。
もう死んでるよ。
Taking charge, I wrestled Sena's hands away as she looked at me in horror and forcefully grabbed the baby. She broke down crying. Ignoring her wails, I clutched the baby. Cheat code. Activate. Lend me your power. His D-sword? Suddenly I noticed it. A strange color, shrouded in faint light. A shining sword was laying at my feet. A D-sword! Forgetting about all the pain, I took hold of it. Despite being so long and gigantic, it was shockingly light. It was almost like I was holding nothing but thin air. I now knew for sure this was a real D-sword. It was no fake. Hot damn, cheat code. To think I'd finally got my hands on a D-sword this easily after struggling to get one for so long. Summoning all my remaining energy, I stood up. My wounds hadn't healed, but I was invincible now. Wounds this bad just took a minute to heal. That's all. Sena was utterly useless now. I destroyed Noah 2 myself. I felt power overflowing from deep within, from the very core of my body. It felt like there wasn't anything I couldn't do. I had attained a power rivaling that of God himself. Alright then, Mr. God. Save the day. Go on. Do it. I brandished my sword. My target was the planetarium, illuminated ominously by the surrounding light.
壊してやる。これで終わりに。
Deus Ex gunshot. A gunshot echoed throughout the air. Blood spewed from my chest. Soon after, I was hit with an intense pain. For a moment, I stopped breathing. My vision went black. I had an awful feeling writhing in the depths of my throat, and a taste of blood spread through my mouth as I coughed violently. That guy from earlier. Had he shot me again? Had Remy failed to hold him off? I looked around, only to be absolutely astonished by what I saw. Did you shoot me, Sena? There were tons of people, all crowded around me and Sena. They all had dead eyes. They were all holding guns, and they were all aimed at me. Well, this is quite the predicament we found ourselves in. Every single one of them was whispering something.
信仰の救いあれ。信仰の救いあれ。
信仰の救いあれ。信仰の救いあれ。信仰の救いあれ。信仰の救いあれ。
セナ、先生。
They all fired in unison. Countless lead bullets penetrated my body, boring out my flesh, slicing through my bones. I was assaulted by impact after impact. My body danced around by an order not my own, just like a marionette. The pain stabbed at my consciousness. It felt like I was going to pass out.
No.
Even still, I desperately kept standing. My D-sword was still raised high, held aloft in one of my hands. I'll destroy it, I prayed. I'll destroy Noah too. No matter how desecrated my body is, I won't die. I can't die! I swung down. The D-sword drew a trail of red light. A brilliant flash burst into the night sky. The blade of light tore through the endless night and descended down upon a planetarium dome below. Only to be deflected by some unseen force. F.
嘘でしょ。
It was like there had been some sort of invisible wall. The light emitted by the D-sword was refracted, and dispersed. So, turns out that Norose's cheat code is better than ours. Silence. Sena, me, and the people who had been shooting at me. We all simply stared, dumbfounded. Even with the cheat, it didn't work? Was Noah too indestructible? I'd try again. I couldn't let it end like this. I coughed up blood. Greasy sweat stung at my eyes. I could barely feel the pain anymore. My senses were already starting to disappear. My nerves might have been paralyzed. One more swing. I'm strong. I'm the strongest in the world. My strength stat should be so high it should absolutely be OP. So I just need one more swing. I raised my sword overhead. Along with a woman's scream, they fired wildly once again. Sena covered my body with hers. I guess Sena had saved me this time. Oof.
Sena.
私も手伝うよ。
It's a little too late, though. Sena tightly, ever so tightly, embraced my blood-soaked body. She grasped the hand I held my D-sword with. Sena's body was so warm. Hell, it was closer to hot. It had to be the heat of her blood, drawn out by the gunshot wounds I'd suffered just now. The heat of the pulse of that life ran through her body.
お前の覚悟ちゃんと分かったからご破走その子のためにもご破走二人で力を合わせてお前だけ死なせないお前だけ無茶させない私とお前は運命共同体だずっと一緒だ死ぬ時も戦う時も一緒だもうこんな悲しみの連鎖は止めよう復活とかそんなのどうでもいい自然の摂理に反することはするべきじゃない私はただもう憎しみも悲しみも見たくないんだこんな世界を見たくないんだお前が傷つくのも見たくないんだだから一緒に壊そうあの全ての元凶を
Sena's voice ran throughout my fading consciousness. So she had finally come back to her senses, huh? Completely exhausted and covered in tears, she shielded an otaku freak like me, and now she was covered in blood. We were both dyed a deep crimson. But I really did feel her passion. Her voice really did reach me. Together, we raised the D-sword high. I could still hear gunshots firing around us. But that wouldn't stop us anymore. My power was overflowing more than ever before. I felt a strong life force gushing out of Sena. With this godly power, we would destroy the machine that rivaled God on high. This time for sure, we would...
行くぞ西条
I nodded. Together with Sena. We swung a D-sword down with all our strength. Will this actually work? And right as we did, a flash of light burst forth. A flash of light that tore the very world asunder. A red light that ripped the night sky in two. A red blade that perhaps might even reach the moon. It blew away everything. turning it all to dust. Together with the invisible barrier surrounding Noah 2, the planetarium was reduced to ashes. A massive impact and shockwave burst through the city. It felt like my body was going to be torn apart. The people standing around us were blown away. Even so, Sena and I held each other upright. We both clutched the baby in our arms, shielding it. We used every last drop of power we had left. We didn't think about what came next. As long as we had the cheat code, our wounds would heal. So right now, all we needed to do was destroy Noah 2. With all our heart and soul, we let out our power erupt. The sounds dissipated, and the light along with it. And in the center of that ruined city of death, Sena and I stood tall. Sena clung to my body. I leaned against hers. And between us, we embraced the bloody baby. I couldn't walk another step. I couldn't make the slightest movement. I didn't have an ounce of strength left.
もういいんだ。悲しいけど、もういいんだ。死んだ人を生き返らせるのなんてエゴでしかないから。チートコードは返そう。
I felt the same way. And because we were alive, we had to live on for the sake of those who had died.
ごめん。
Sena softly and gently embraced the bloody baby.
ごめん。死なせてしまって。ごめん。
Sena had cried a lot today. But compared to the usual girl who glared at everyone and everything, the girl whose weakness was on display right now was far more beautiful. Sena's flowing tears were so very beautiful. And as those thoughts flowed through my mind, I looked up toward the night sky. Well, shit! I guess we sort of won.
エラーは全て消滅。ノア2とノロセ現一の消去も確認したわ。オリジナルの西条匠は確保済み。虫の息だけどね。コピーの西条匠および畑野瀬名は予定通り任務を実行後共に死んだわ。
Looks like I spoke a little too soon about winning.
今後も引き続き調査は続行するけど、おそらく畑野瀬名も西条匠もエラーは生み出さなかったんでしょ。
Wait a minute. This voice. Well, I don't know why I'm forgetting her name right now. But I'm pretty sure I know who... I'm pretty sure I recognize this voice.
それでいいんじゃない？私の仕事も減ったことだし。あ、そうそう。ついでに周りをうろちょろしてた天聖信仰会の信者連中も処分しといたから。先畑リミンには逃げられたみたいだけど、まあ脅威にはならないでしょ。世界人間牧場計画の予定には若干の修正が必要ね。でも今回の一連のエラーは計画へと利用を還元できると判断するわ。結果的には300人委員会に何らの不利益も生じない。了解。デバッガード任務は終了します。以後監視者の役割に戻るわ。あら、この子生きてるわね。エラーになっちゃうわ。二人が命を与えたのかしら。見なかったことにしますか。私は独身だし子供はちょっと苦手なんだけど。ミルクは手に入るかしらね、この渋谷で。
She's been working for the bad guys this entire time! What the hell? Fucking hell, what's her name? Mose? Whatever. I'll remember it here when this is all after when this episode's done. I'll look it up if I have to, but I flashed her on screen post-production here, so I mean, you guys know who I'm talking about. That bitch. That bitch is just... She's one of them! Where do I even start with that plot? Where do I even start with this? Oh, Lord. Well, I wonder if this particular plot revelation will end up being addressed in some of the other routes as well. Probably will be, at least in its true ending, if I had to guess. Seems like the more routes I play, the amount of real allies I end up actually having seems to be decreasing. Outside of the Gigalomaniacs, honestly. Seems to me at this point like the only other character we can really trust at this point who isn't Takumi or any of the main supporting characters, the Gigalomaniacs, is Bon. Other than that, though, certainly wasn't expecting to be contacted by the Committee of 300 directly, especially like this. And I'm not gonna lie, if they are indeed everything that they claim to be, and well, at this point, admittedly, I've seen more evidence to indicate that they are rather than they aren't. The very concept of the Committee of 300 at this point for me is honestly kind of terrifying. You've got these 300 beings that exist in an alternate and higher realm of existence than that of our world, that basically are gods for all intents and purposes, are gods or administrators of our world, and they can indirectly influence the course of events in the manner which we just witnessed. And according to them, that's pretty much always been the case ever since humanity's inception. So that just really, it really brings some very uncomfortable implications as to the concept of free will within this universe, as far as I'm concerned. If they've truly just been domesticating, if they've truly just been have had humanity domesticated for God knows how long now at this point, if not the very beginning. How the hell do you fight against something like this? Like, I'm just still trying to wrap my head around. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around the fact that they exist and the implications that their very existence has within the setting. This is nuts. Well, I don't want to force this chaotic train of thought that I'm on here to. Well, okay. But let me rephrase. I don't want to try to voice my thoughts any more than what I'm already doing right now, because my mind's a bit of a chaotic mess right now. Just trying to make sense of everything that's just been revealed to me in the past couple hours, and trying to fit it together with everything I've seen in the game so far, as I understand it currently. And I'd probably be here a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and end this episode here. And I guess when we come back, I guess we'll start Kozumi's route next. That should be a very interesting ride in itself, considering who the heroine in question is. So even if we don't get the serious mind screw and giant plot revelations that we just got in Sena's route with Kozumi's, I certainly doubt there will be rarely a dull moment of Kozumi, considering how unstable she is. At any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Chaos Head Noah. If you did and you'd like to see more content from me, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Take care.